It's another update from Walker County, Alabama.
In our last video about Walker County, we learned that Nick Smith had been arrested for hiring deputies that weren't certified to be deputies. Then he decided to put some of them into schools as resource officers because, well, I'm not really sure why he did that. He had campaign ads about how Walker County needs to invest in their children, so invest, but not too much. Speaking of the school district, Deanna Creel, a Walker County teacher for over 26 years, was arrested on drug charges, strip searched by the school resource officer Amy Garrison and assistant principal Amy Lockhart. They allege that drugs and paraphernalia was found in her classroom. She was handcuffed and then, while in custody, had photos taken of her by Brad Allred, an employee of Quality Correctional Health Care, which is the healthcare company that has a contract with the Walker County Jail. Now, why was Brado taking pictures of her? Who knows? He then went on to share the photos with third parties. Deanna is now suing all of the above because it turns out the alleged drugs were found in a makeup bag with someone else's name on it, and the drug paraphernalia turned out to be straws that were used in the science lab at the school. Deanna took a voluntary drug test and was cleared of all charges. And old Amy Garrison was on a Walker County Facebook page commenting to other people about the lawsuit. Has Nick not trained his officers to not talk to the public about pending lawsuits? I hope Deanna gets all the money she wants from this. The great and mighty Nick Smith has given a statement about his arrest. Quote, "It's political." End quote. Well, great response, Nicholas. He's trying to blame the Walker County District Attorney for his arrest, but really it was the Alabama Peace Officers Standards and Training Commission that started investigating his hiring practices when it came to light that Andrew Neves McDonald had been hired as a Walker County deputy, but wasn't supposed to be a deputy anywhere in the United States because of his use of excessive force when he was a deputy in Arizona. I guess we're just supposed to believe it when Nick says it was political, though. A couple of videos ago, I shared a new directive that was handed down to Nick from Walker County District Judge Henry Allred, terminating the use of Zoom calls for hearings and ordering Nick to start showing up with the arresting deputy to every court hearing. The directive was given because too many misdemeanor cases were being dismissed because the arresting officer was a no-show. Nick, of course, made excuses for why his deputies couldn't be arsed to attend a Zoom call. He then wrote a passive-aggressive letter to the Board of Commissioners. Quote, "Dear Chairman and Commissioners, as you are likely aware, Judge Allred entered 2 orders on May 23rd regarding court procedures. One of his orders terminates the use of Zoom call for hearings or bond hearings via Zoom. Consequently, all inmates will now be transferred from the jail to Judge Allred's courtroom for hearings of any type. The other order adjusts how bonds are set for misdemeanor arrest. I have enclosed herein a copy of my letter to the district attorney. As you can see, I have requested that his office issue subpoenas for future hearings where a deputy may be needed to testify. Misdemeanor court hearings often get continued at the last minute or even on the day of trial. Our deputies may appear in court 3 or 4 times on a simple misdemeanor charge. I have asked that the district attorney serve subpoenas for the deputy's appearance to clarify when a deputy is needed for court. Further, these added court appearances will likely impact overtime requirements. I know that the subpoenas will aid you in understanding why our deputies may have an increase in future overtime. Please let me know if any other additional information will aid you in understanding and/or approving in future overtime pay requests." End quote. The thing is that deputies already get subpoenaed for each case. That's how courts work. So, either Nick is so bad at his job that he doesn't know his deputies are getting subpoenaed, or he's being willfully stupid about it. Case File Criminally Curious did a lot of digging and found out how many cases were dismissed in Walker County from 2023 through May of this year due to the arresting officer not showing up for the hearing. In 2023, 18% of misdemeanors that were dismissed were for an officer no-show. And Nick said, "Team, we need to do better." So in 2024, 43% of misdemeanor hearings that were dropped were due to an officer no-show. Good job, team. And still, Nick pushed his officers to be even worse. And as of May 2025, half of the misdemeanor charges that were dropped this year were because of no-show by the deputies under the great Nicholas Lee Smith. But no worries, right? Because Nick had an excuse for the misdemeanor cases being dropped. Quote, and the political hit pieces keep on coming. Yes, 106 cases have been dismissed in 2 years and 4 months. That's an average of 3.5 a month. But you have to understand the full story, which no one besides me is going to tell you because it doesn't fit their agenda. Anyone that's ever had any dealings with Walker County's court system understands how many times cases get continued, often on multiple occasions. There have been times when deputies show up multiple times in the same case, only to have the cases continued over and over again. Keep in mind that deputies don't get paid overtime for these appearances because of overtime constraints. A deputy can show up multiple times and the case gets continued. But the first time the deputy doesn't show up, the case gets dismissed. Yes, there are deputies that don't show up, and some don't show up because they no longer work at the sheriff's office. I can't make those people show up that no longer work for me. In order for things to be more efficient, I've asked time and time again for prosecutors to call deputies if a case needs testimony to avoid taking deputies away from patrol duties to sit in court only to have the case continued or to come in on their only off day for the case to be continued. This isn't a practice that's foreign to them because they've put deputies on standby before with no issue. But all of that still doesn't account for domestic violence cases that are resolved with the victim dropping charges at the last minute. There are a multitude of reasons why things like this happen, and believe it or not, they're not all the sheriff's office's fault. I'm sure you could pull numbers from other agencies in the county and state, and the cases dismissed will be similar, but ours is all people can talk about because they want me gone. It's that simple, folks. They don't want to talk about the cases still awaiting trial for years while the offenders still walk the streets free on rape charges. They don't want to talk about the rape cases over 8+ years old that are yet to have a trial, like the one involving JPD. They don't want to talk about the inmates that have spent 6 or 7 years in the county jail waiting for trial on county funds. There is a bigger picture here, and that's why it's so political. They want me out because they know, and I don't mind talking about them. But I won't shut up. I won't take the attack sitting down. I will continue to stand and fight. End quote. Well, if you do your math right, it's actually closer to 3.7 a month because it was for 29 months, not 28, and don't round down to make your numbers better. Also, the Walker County numbers were compared to the rest of the state, and Walker County has higher dismissal rates of cases because deputies didn't show up. But Nick decided that this math still sounded bad, so in an interview with WVTM, he brought up that Walker County had arrested 1,367 people from January 1st, 2023 to May 30th, 2025, with 184 cases being dismissed. Again, either Nick is an idiot or just likes playing one on TV, because the numbers given in the dropped cases data were only misdemeanor cases and were only how many were dropped because of officers being no-shows of the total dropped misdemeanor cases. So throwing in the number of all the arrests has nothing to do with the fact that half of the misdemeanor cases that were dropped this year were dropped because Nick's deputies didn't show up. Then Nick has to bring up domestic violence cases that are dropped because the victim drops the charges. Again, that doesn't have anything to do with how many cases are dropped from deputies not showing up for the hearing. And then he starts in about how many people have spent 6 or 7 years in the county jail waiting for trial. Well, according to one of the Walker County jail rosters from April, the 3 people who have been in jail the longest have been there since 2020, so 3 out of 109 total. Nick just wants to deflect from the numbers that tell the truth about his deputies. He also said that some of the dropped cases had original filing dates from the 1990s. So we're supposed to believe that Walker County has cases from over 30 years ago that they're still trying to work through the court system? Seriously? Walker County has no right to a speedy trial or a statute of limitations on anything? I think Nicholas is being ridiculous again. And of course, he had to once again say that everything is political. Oh, poor Nick. He's just misunderstood. He's really a stand up guy and a great boss, and he just wants to be able to get out there and arrest all the people for all the drugs. You know how the guys yelling about how being gay is a sin always turn out to be so deep in the closet that they're on the other side of Narnia? I wonder if sheriffs who are so focused on arresting people on drug charges are the same way. Not gay, just super into drugs. Case File Criminally Curious on Facebook shared some letters that Nick wrote that show what a great boss he is. Now, Nick didn't date these letters, but from the verbiage, it sounds like this was written during the COVID lockdown. I'm not going to read it all, but I want to share this part where Nick's charm really shines through. Quote, "You all need to keep in mind that you chose this job. You chose to take a career in public safety, and you have to embrace the bad just like you do the good. When a crisis of this magnitude occurs, public safety employees don't pack it up and go home. We work harder while everyone else sits at home because we are responsible for protecting them. We are the ones that keep the peace and make sure everything operates as close to normal as possible. This ain't TJ Maxx, this ain't Hobby Lobby, and every single one of you knew that when you took this job. If you can't pull together for a short period of time and do what I ask you to do, go find another one. Those jobs probably pay better and are way less stressful. So if any of you want a job like that, just let me know. I'll scratch out an outstanding reference letter for you and you can go sell purses or Christmas ornaments or whatever." End quote. He also sent a letter to the jail staff, and again, I'll just read the parts that show how utterly delightful Nick is. Quote, "If you have been employed in that jail through 3 different sheriffs and all you've done is moan and complain about everything, maybe it's time to step back. Look in the mirror and ask yourself if you're the problem. If you can't figure out the answer, I'll help you. You are the problem. If you have a problem with the supervisor and the way they do their job, take the test to be one or shut up and do your job. If you don't think anybody besides yourself is capable of being sheriff or running this department, then run for sheriff or shut your mouth and do your job. Complaining and excuses only sound good to the people complaining and making excuses. I'm sick and tired of my own employees being roadblocks to the progress my good employees deserve. My door is always open. If you want to complain, come do it to me. I bet most of the complainers wouldn't dare step in my office and spout off some of the mess that's being said downstairs, and it's because complainers don't really care if things are good. Things are never good enough for a complainer, and the good employees are sick of hearing it. I don't want to hear a word about playing favorites or anything like that either. My favorites are people that do their jobs, don't complain about everything, and are a part of the solution instead of a part of the problem. I started this week weeding out the problems in that jail. Y'all wanted somebody to pay attention to you, well, now you've got it. I dismissed one of your coworkers already, and I won't stop there if I don't have to. I'm fully committed to weeding out the problem employees in my jail that goes for lazy, complainers, stirrers, criminals, and anybody else that tries to hold up the progress that we will make. The Walker County Jail will be better than it's ever been with or without you. If you can't make the decision yourself, I'll most definitely make it for you. Bottom line, get on board or find another job. I'll be happy to write you a letter of recommendation." End quote. This is kind of like eating in a restaurant and someone telling you that unless you want to become a chef, you shouldn't complain when your food tastes like butt mud and has a pubic hair in it. So Nick likes to boost the morale of his employees by telling them they suck. That always works. I do appreciate that Nick emphasized that the jail was his. That means he's responsible for what happens in it, right? And if we extrapolate just a tiny bit, that means he's responsible for Tony Mitchell's death, along with all of the other alleged atrocities that have happened in the jail. But it's nice he put it in writing for everybody to see. One final thing I want to talk about is something I've touched on before, and it's how often Nick has photos of his family on media that has to do with him being the sheriff. The photos he's using on campaign billboards are of his entire family. And on his Nick Smith Walker County Sheriff's Facebook page, his profile picture is of him and his wife. Now, are we supposed to think that Nick is a better person because he has a family? Or maybe his wife insists on him including her to let all those hoes that are sniffing around her man know that he's taken. You'd think his personality would take care of that problem. Most public figures try to protect their family, but Nick's out there posting them for everyone to see, even the ones he arrests for violent crimes. It's just weird to me. Okay, another final thing. Go follow Case File Criminally Curious and Secrets True Crime Podcast on Facebook, and I'll leave a link to both of their pages in the description box. Oh, hang on. There's another final. I'm just kidding. I'm really finished for now. I'm sure Walker County will give me another reason for a new video about them soon. Until then, stay safe, be happy, and don't let the turkeys get you down.